The AFC is shaping up to be a battlefield this season, not just because of the stacked quarterbacks, but because of how unstable and top-heavy some divisions have become. And while everyone's got their eyes on Mahomes and Burrow, there's one team that's quietly lurking with all the potential to cause chaos in January: the Buffalo Bills. Yeah, that team. The one that's somehow become both underrated and over-scrutinized all at once. Before we talk Bills, though, we've got to zoom out and look at the AFC landscape. Because what happens in the North, West, and South directly impacts the Bills' road to the postseason, and potentially to the Super Bowl. Let's start with the AFC North, because that's the division everybody seems to love calling the toughest in football. But is it really? I mean, the Ravens might be one of the best teams in the league going into the season. They've got Lamar, they've got Derrick Henry, they added DeAndre Hopkins, and their defense is loaded with names like Kyle Hamilton, Marlon Humphrey, and even Jair Alexander now. If they stay healthy, that's a championship-level roster. But that's just one team. The rest? It's a whole lot of questions. The Bengals are a fascinating case. They've got Joe Burrow, one of the few quarterbacks in the league who can go toe-to-toe with Mahomes and Allen. But their defense? It stinks. Not just underwhelming, straight-up bad. And yeah, they brought in a new coordinator, and yeah, they added some young pieces, but unless that unit makes a leap from bottom tier to at least average, they're going to find themselves on the outside looking in again. You don't need an elite defense to win in the AFC, but you sure as hell can't be a bottom 5 unit and expect to play in late January. Then you've got the Steelers, the poster children for stability. Mike Tomlin has never had a losing season, and even when their roster looks mediocre on paper, they still claw their way to 9 wins minimum. But this year, there's a real chance it finally collapses. They've got drama under center. Their quarterback might talk more than he plays. And even though the defense is solid, the offense might just drag them down. The thing about Pittsburgh is, even if they start out strong, we've seen time and time again that they hit a wall in the postseason. And maybe, just maybe, Tomlin gets fed up and decides it's time for a new challenge. The man's done enough to walk away whenever he wants. The Browns, what are we even doing here? This is a team that feels like a parody of itself at this point. Dysfunction at the ownership level, a revolving door of quarterbacks, and a defense that has to carry the weight of an offense that no one trusts. They've got talent, sure, but you can't build a playoff team out of chaos and controversy. And the idea that Shadar Sanders is part of this quarterback room tells you everything you need to know about the current state of Cleveland. It's messy, it's unpredictable, and it's probably going to be another year of disappointment. So yeah, the AFC North, not this unbeatable juggernaut people love to romanticize. The Ravens are elite, the Bengals are dangerous but flawed, and the rest is smoke and mirrors. Now, over in the AFC East, now that's a division nobody talks about enough. The Bills? We'll get to them. The Jets? They're going to surprise people. No, they don't have the quarterback. Not yet. But what they do have is stability, leadership, and a coach in Aaron Glenn who's building something real on the defensive side. They've been a thorn in Buffalo's side for years, even when they were bad. Now, they're not bad, and that defense is legit. The Patriots are in full rebuild mode, and it's going to show. Mike Vrabel's a great coach, and he'll get the most out of what he's got, but the roster just isn't there. They'll fight, they'll be well prepared, they'll probably pull off an upset or two, but they're a year away from truly competing. That being said, with a favorable schedule early on, don't be shocked if they look better than they really are through the first month. And then there's Miami, the team everybody wanted to crown 2 seasons ago. But now, the wheels are falling off. The culture is broken, the locker room vibes are off, and the front office is already starting to bail on some of their bets. Mike McDaniel might be a genius with the whiteboard, but coaching a team full of egos and expectations is a different beast. This feels like a season where everything crashes down. Tua probably stays, just because he's cheap and familiar, but don't be shocked if McDaniel is out by the end of the year, and Chris Greer right behind him. Let's shift gears to the AFC West, because this is where things get really interesting. For years, the Chiefs have coasted through this division, but not anymore. The Broncos are coming. Not saying they're elite yet, but they're a threat. Sean Payton's not everyone's favorite, but the guy can coach. And Bo Nix? He might not be a superstar, but he raised the floor of this team in a huge way. The defense is fast, aggressive, and built for playoff football. If you think they're just going to roll over again, think again. And let's talk Chargers. Or maybe not. Because honestly, we're all sick of talking about them. Every year, it's this is the year. And every year, they choke. Justin Herbert has all the tools, but when it matters, he vanishes. Great stats, no clutch. It's not even controversial anymore. It's just a reality. And that defense? It's a liability. The Raiders, for once, might actually be the team that overachieves. New coach, new quarterback, grown-ups in the room. That alone should make them more competitive than last season. They're not winning the division, but they'll be a tough out. And then, of course, the Chiefs. What else is there to say? Mahomes is still Mahomes. Andy Reid still has that offense humming. And their defense, led by Spags and some absolute studs like McDuffie and Chris Jones, is going to keep them in every game. But you do have to wonder, how long can they keep doing this? After all these deep playoff runs, back-to-back-to-back Super Bowls, and constant pressure to win, when does the fatigue set in? We've seen Mahomes not look like Superman during parts of last year. We've seen Kelsey slow down, and the division around them is getting better. If there's a season where Kansas City stumbles out of the gate, this might be it. Finally, let's not ignore the AFC South. The Texans are legit. They've got the coach, they've got the defense, and they've got C.J. Stroud, who, despite what the hype says, still has room to grow. This team is going to dominate the division because, frankly, there's no one else who can challenge them. The Jags are a mystery. Trevor Lawrence is fine, but that's the problem. He's supposed to be the guy, and we're still waiting for that breakout year. The Colts are a mess. The Titans are rebuilding, and the Texans have a real chance to stack wins and sneak into a top seed just by beating up on their division rivals. So yeah, the AFC is a gauntlet, but it's also full of false kings. The Bills? They're right in the thick of it. And despite everything, the playoff heartbreak, the media noise, the Diggs departure, this team is still loaded. Josh Allen is still one of the best quarterbacks on the planet. The defense has playmakers. And even without a top 3 roster on paper, the culture in Buffalo is what sets them apart. Let's zoom in on that for a minute. Josh Allen isn't just a top-tier quarterback. He's the emotional engine of this franchise. The highs are electric, the lows can be wild, but nobody plays with more raw passion. And yeah, he's taken heat. Too many turnovers. Trying to do too much. But let's be real, you don't get the magic without the risk. You don't get that off-schedule, rocket arm throw across his body on 3rd and 19 without the occasional pick in the red zone. That's the price of admission. And if you're sitting there thinking you'd rather have a safe quarterback, go watch a few Patriots games and see how that works out. What Allen brings is unteachable. He's the guy who can will a team back from 2 scores down in the snow with the season on the line. And now, with a reset around him, a new offensive coordinator in full command, fresh weapons, and a chance to evolve, this could be the most complete version of Josh Allen we've ever seen. Mature, motivated, and still dangerous. Now, let's talk about the rest of this roster because there's this narrative floating around that the Bills somehow lost too much this offseason to stay relevant. That's lazy analysis. Yes, they lost key veterans. Yes, Stephon Diggs is gone. But if you've been paying attention, you know this was always the direction they were headed. The cap was tight, the core was aging, and the locker room needed fresh energy. And guess what? They got it. Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott didn't panic. They trusted their process, they retooled with purpose, and they kept the culture intact. The offense still has weapons. Dalton Kincaid looks ready to make a serious leap. James Cook is quietly becoming one of the most dynamic backs in the conference. The offensive line is better, not just on paper, but in chemistry and cohesion. And Josh Allen finally gets to build with a group that's bought in for the long haul. That matters. Defensively, this team is getting overlooked. But if you've watched the way this unit has grown, even through the injuries, you know how good they can be. They've got a young core that's fast, physical, and hungry. And with Von Miller coming back fully healthy, Greg Rousseau emerging, and that linebacker room solidified, this defense can hang with anybody. Throw in a revamped secondary and McDermott calling plays with another year of experience under his belt, and you've got a group that can close out games, not just survive them. And listen, everyone talks about Buffalo's schedule like it's a mountain to climb. But here's the thing, that's a good thing. You want to be battle-tested. You want to play the best in the regular season so you're not shell-shocked in January. The Bills have always played up to their competition. Give them the Chiefs, the Ravens, the Bengals, they'll show up. It's when they coast against weaker teams that they run into trouble. So if this schedule is the gauntlet everyone claims it is, that might be the perfect setup for a team that's built for the fight. Let's go back to Diggs for a second. Yes, losing a top receiver is a big deal. But don't mistake that for regression. Sometimes subtraction is part of growth. Sometimes the best thing you can do for a quarterback is give him a group of guys who run their routes, block when they're supposed to, and don't cause waves on the sideline when the ball doesn't come their way. It's not about replacing Diggs' talent. It's about redistributing the offense, getting more guys involved, building trust, and making sure defenses can't just key in on one guy. The Bills might not have the flashiest receiver room in the AFC, but they might have one of the most balanced. Kincaid can be a matchup nightmare. Curtis Samuel is more than just a gadget player. He can line up anywhere and create problems. And keep an eye on Khalil Shakir. He's the kind of player that just fits what Buffalo wants to do. Versatile, tough, and dependable. Let's not forget this team was one punt return away from a deeper playoff run last year. They were inches away, literally, from knocking off Kansas City in Arrowhead again. And for all the drama, all the criticism, all the second-guessing, this team just keeps showing up. That's what elite organizations do. They don't panic. They evolve. Meanwhile, look around the conference. There are a lot of unstable teams being sold as contenders. The Dolphins? A roster full of names, but no foundation. The Chargers? Perennial underachievers. The Bengals? Built on a shaky defense and a coach who might be on the hot seat by midseason. The Ravens? Stacked, yes, but also carrying huge expectations and a running back who's not the same Derrick Henry we saw 3 years ago. It's easy to crown teams in August. It's harder to be standing when the snow starts falling in January. The Bills know what that's like. They've taken the punches. They've buried playoff demons. And they've come back stronger each time. One thing that doesn't get enough credit? Sean McDermott. Say what you want about game management or playoff losses, but he's built something real in Buffalo. And when you look at what other organizations are going through, constant turnover, coaching drama, culture issues, you realize how rare that is. The man took a franchise that hadn't been to the playoffs in almost 2 decades and turned it into a perennial contender. That doesn't happen by accident. And yet, people still doubt, still wonder if the window has closed, still point to a few missed chances and say the Bills missed their shot. But if you're inside that locker room, if you're watching the way this team carries itself, you know the window isn't closed, it's just opening differently. Less about hype, more about execution. Less about stars, more about system. And sometimes that's what it takes to get over the hump. There's a hunger in this team that you can't fake. You can hear it in Allen's interviews. You can feel it in the way the young guys talk about stepping up. It's not about revenge anymore. It's about proving something to themselves. It's about playing complete football, about finally turning heartbreak into history. Because if you've watched this team closely, you know what's coming. You know they're going to take a few early hits. You know there'll be a week or two where the media starts writing them off again. But you also know that when the lights are the brightest, when the games matter most, there's no team in the AFC that wants to see Buffalo standing across the line. They're not the loudest. They're not the flashiest. But they might just be the most dangerous team in the conference, precisely because they've stopped chasing the noise and started focusing on the work. That's what championship teams do. And this team? They're not done yet. Before we dive back in, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Your support helps us keep delivering the latest Buffalo Bills updates straight to your screen. And hey, don't hold back. Let us know your thoughts on today's news down in the comments. In Buffalo, a quiet storm seems to be forming around the team's training facility, and the whispers are starting to grow louder with every passing hour. The Bills, who have spent the last few seasons searching for the missing defensive piece that could finally elevate them into championship territory, may have found that exact element in Jadeveon Clowney, the new edge rusher added to their roster for the 2025 season. While the news has not yet been surrounded by official fanfare or dramatic press conferences, insiders claim that the move has shaken conversations across the league, igniting curiosity about how Clowney's proven talent, raw athleticism, and disruptive energy might alter the balance of power in the AFC. What makes this story particularly fascinating is the element of surprise. Many analysts had predicted Clowney's return to a more familiar setting, perhaps a team he already played for, but instead, Buffalo quietly secured a deal that signals their intention to become one of the most feared defenses in football. The potential pairing of Clowney with the Bills' already talented defensive front has fans buzzing, creating an atmosphere of anticipation that feels less like rumor and more like the first hint of a defining season taking shape before everyone's eyes. Speculation around how Clowney will fit into Buffalo's scheme is now dominating sports talk shows and online forums, where every fan seems eager to weigh in on whether this could be the piece that completes the puzzle. The Bills' defense, while consistently strong, has often been critiqued for lacking the one relentless disruptor who could turn high-pressure situations into game-changing plays. Clowney, with his history of explosive sacks and an uncanny ability to collapse pockets, appears to be that kind of presence. Insiders have been quick to remind the public of his ability not just as a pass rusher, but as a run stopper who can set the edge with authority, forcing offenses into uncomfortable decisions. The narrative forming around Buffalo suggests that this acquisition was not just about star power, but about timing, precision, and intent. The Bills want to close the gap on their Super Bowl dreams. What makes the chatter louder is the contrast between Clowney's sometimes inconsistent production in the past and his undeniable reputation as a defensive terror when healthy and motivated. The question everyone seems to be asking is not if he can perform, but whether the Bills' environment can extract the very best version of him when it matters most. Around the league, rival teams are reportedly recalculating their offensive game plans, anticipating how much more difficult it will be to handle Buffalo's defensive front with Clowney in a mix. Quarterbacks who already dreaded facing the Bills' pressure may find themselves staring down not only the familiar names, but also a fresh, hungry veteran eager to prove he still has dominance left in the tank. Coaches, meanwhile, are analyzing old film, studying tendencies, and attempting to predict whether Buffalo will deploy Clowney primarily as a pure edge rusher or if they will experiment with versatile looks that disguise his positioning before the snap. These whispers have been echoed in locker rooms, where players talk about the psychological impact of facing a defense that suddenly has both power and unpredictability in its arsenal. Even those skeptical of Clowney's consistency concede that his presence commands respect, and respect often creates hesitation. That split second of doubt can tilt games, and that is exactly what Buffalo seems to be betting on. The murmur throughout NFL circles is not just about numbers or statistics, but about the sense of inevitability that follows when a defense starts to feel complete. In Buffalo itself, the reaction has been nothing short of electric, though laced with a cautious optimism that fans know too well. Supporters who have endured years of heartbreak and close calls recognize the magnitude of what Clowney could represent. Yet they also carry the scars of believing too soon in previous off-season promises. Sports bars and local radio shows are filled with debates that stretch deep into the night, where one group insists that this is the exact kind of bold move required to push past the likes of Kansas City or Cincinnati, while another warns against placing too much hope on a player whose career has been marked by both brilliance and stretches of invisibility. Still, there is an undeniable excitement that ripples through every conversation, a shared sense that the Bills are not just maintaining competitiveness, but actively striking for greatness. The buzz is contagious, and whether cautious or euphoric, everyone seems to agree that this season now carries a new edge, both figuratively and literally. For Buffalo, a city that thrives on its underdog narrative, the arrival of Clowney has transformed regular chatter into a rumor that feels closer to prophecy. As the preseason approaches, all eyes will inevitably turn toward training camp, where the first glimpses of Clowney in Bills colors will either confirm the whispers or fuel new ones. Observers are eager to see how he interacts with the established defensive leaders, how his energy meshes with the culture, and whether the coaching staff immediately builds packages to unleash his unique skill set. The suspense builds with each practice report, and though nothing has been proven yet, the underlying feeling is that this move signals a shift in Buffalo's identity, from hopeful contenders to fearsome enforcers. If the Bills manage to harness Clowney's talents while maintaining their disciplined defensive structure, they may have just created one of the most intimidating units in recent memory. Yet the beauty of this moment lies in its uncertainty, in the delicious rumor that something extraordinary might be brewing in upstate New York. The sports world thrives on such narratives, and Buffalo has delivered one that refuses to be ignored. For now, it remains a murmur, a tantalizing possibility whispered between fans and analysts. But if early signs prove true, the Bills' gamble could very well become the headline of the entire 2025 NFL season. That's a wrap for now. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay on top of all things Buffalo Bills, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. We'd love to hear what you think in the comments. See you in the next update.